If you can't beat them, then you pop them. You can't man them, then you mop them. You can't stand them, then you drop them. You pop them, cause we pop them like overridden vodka. C3, okay, a millionaire. I'm a young money millionaire.
All right, welcome back to 21 Rates Monday Morning Mining. I'm Sean Ristow, one of your hosts, with my colleague Matt Aggie with me, and then Sean Milmoe as well from 360 Energy is joining us today. Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time and welcome.
Good morning.
So, Monday morning, it's snowing here in Chicago. We were just talking about that. Allows us, it's a perfect topic to dive into the topic of natural gas and energy. And Matt, why don't I let you kick it off with diving in with Sean on some of the questions?
Yeah, sounds good. We kicked off last week and we said we were going to be talking about kind of this intersection of energy and mining and Bitcoin, and wanted to bring Sean on the show and talk about what's going on in the oil and gas sector with off-grid mining and related topics. So welcome, Sean. Glad to have you on. And first, why don't you just tell us about yourself and your journey to 360 Energy?
Yeah, sure. And thanks again for having me on. So I started my career in oil and gas investment banking in Houston, Texas. I was there for 2 years with Credit Suisse, advising oil and gas companies on, capital raises and M&A, things like that. And then I moved to the buy side with Blackstone, moved it to New York, was there for 6 years in the energy group where we were investing LP capital into various energy companies. A lot of that was oil and gas, and then some energy transition type stuff. And then now I'm the CFO and co-founder of 360 Energy. We are a oil field service company, really, that offers natural gas offtake to upstream gas producers. And then we use Bitcoin mining to monetize that gas for our clients.
That's really cool. Honestly, like, I don't know, some of these topics, I kind of feel like a kid in a candy shop, because it's like you start figuring out like how a lot of this is being done behind the scenes. Why don't you give us a little, overview of what it is exactly that you're doing, as it relates to power for mining and all the pieces that go into it, as it relates to Bitcoin.
Yeah. And I'll kind of start from the beginning of 360 to give some context. So we started in 2021, and the original thesis was, let's get cheap power to mine Bitcoin. And how do you get the cheapest power possible? We all know here that's kind of the name of the game of Bitcoin mining. That's how you differentiate yourself. That was, back when everyone was hungry to get on the grid, plugging in ASICs as fast as possible in 21, that bull market. And we thought that probably wasn't sustainable long term. And we wanted to get a cheaper source of power. So the thesis was, let's go buy really cheap natural gas wells. Instead of selling that gas to the pipeline, not making much money at all, let's take that gas ourselves, make power with it via natural gas generators, and then use that power on site to power Bitcoin mining. So we did that. It was a lot harder to do in real life than it looked in Excel. It looked awesome in Excel. But operating heavy equipment in the oil field is not easy. So it really took us 2 years to get good at doing this, reliably creating power, reliably mining Bitcoin in the oil field. And thankfully, we did that on our own asset. So we got really good at it after 2 years with infrastructure that works, software, the whole team, all the processes, etc. And once we came out of that 2 year period, other producers that were around us in the Barnett, so right outside of Fort Worth, came to us and said, hey, we're not making any money on our gas either. Can you help us implement this technology on our assets? So we kind of saw the market need for our expertise and started a services arm of the company to go do this for other producers. And that is the main focus of our business today. So, people come to us for really three main value props. One is the original one I just spoke about, which is, hey, we're not making any money in this gas. Let's do something else with it. Let's, make power at our site and mine Bitcoin. And that's making, kind of a 3 to 4x uplift on the value of that gas they're actually producing. The second is reducing flaring. So when you drill an oil well, gas often comes as a byproduct. And if there's no gas pipeline, the standard thing people do is just flare it, which is burning it into the atmosphere, which is obviously very wasteful, not great for the environment, etc. So our units can reduce flaring by, instead of burning that gas in the atmosphere, you burn it in a clean burn natural gas EPA certified generator, which makes power, and then the Bitcoin mine is monetizing that power. And the third, related value prop is to unlock oil production. So some states you're not allowed to flare, like in Wyoming, for example. So we have a customer in Wyoming who drilled an oil well. They thought the natural gas pipeline was going to get built there. It wasn't. They had to actually shut in the oil well. They couldn't even produce the oil because there's nowhere for the gas to go. So we are now live in Wyoming, consuming that gas for them, and then they're able to unlock all that oil revenue. So those are the main value props that our product brings. And frankly, like our clients, our oil and gas companies, they don't really care about Bitcoin, to be frank. I obviously love Bitcoin. I'm a Bitcoin maximalist myself. But Bitcoin mining just happens to be a tool they can use to make their operations more efficient.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to ask you about just the general attitude, the oil and gas knowledge of Bitcoin. What is the adoption looking like? Because, if you go back, I guess even back as far as 2016, 2017, there was a lot of discussion about this particular type of use case. And how have you seen things change or evolve since then?
Yeah, it's definitely got a lot better, but I'd say we're still very, very early. Maybe the first, second inning of broader adoption in the oil field. You're right. Like a lot of people have been talking about this. It makes sense theoretically, right? Cheap power is good for Bitcoin mining. But like I said, it's a lot harder to actually do well in the oil field. So I think, there's been some false starts over the years. People have tried to do this. It hasn't gone well. And broadly, Bitcoin is just not widely understood at a lot of these oil and gas companies. So I'd say it's getting a lot better, but we're still very, very early.
So that brings me a little bit to kind of maybe some of the financing details, like what makes a good site? Like how do people make this economically viable or profitable?
Yeah, great question. So the first thing we do with any potential client is go over how much volume do you have, how steady is the gas flow, because we need a steady flow of gas, right? If the well goes down and you don't have gas, you're out of luck. You're not mining any Bitcoin. You have no power. And then also it's the gas contents. So our generators can take a wide range of gas, anywhere from 900 BTU up to 1500 BTU. And that's just the specific generators we use and we've worked on over time. A lot of generators can only take a pipeline spec of gas. So gas contents, and then the last thing I didn't mention is midstream dedications. A lot of natural gas is already dedicated to a midstream company. So if contractually you have to give them the gas, it's not a good fit. So those are kind of the checklists that we go through. High level first conversation we have. If the gas is in spec, there's enough, the flow is steady, and the midstream contract is flexible enough to allow this. Those are kind of the specifications we look at.
So now, are you providing the gas between, so help me understand here. Are you going out to these sites, actually picking, plugging into their infrastructure and then getting that gas from there to XYZ place?
No, so the nice thing about our infrastructure, it sits right next to the well. So let's say you're ExxonMobil, you drilled a big oil well, you're flaring the gas right now. You would call us and say, hey, we have this gas we're just burning, let's find a solution. So we can put our units literally right next to that flare, pipe it into our generator, and then we're off and mining Bitcoin.
And that will power, so so when it comes to the amount of energy and miners that you can be doing, what are we talking here?
Yeah, great question. So one of our units is a 1.3 megawatt generator and a 1.3 megawatt data center. So that's 336 S21 plus miners. It's like around 1.3 megawatts of power. So around 75 petahash. So, and that generator will consume around 300 MCF a day of gas. That's really not that much gas compared to how much is out there, but it is a good chunk of power. And that's what, taking a step back, that's why we do Bitcoin mining, because you have all this gas, you make a ton of power, but then what do you do with this power in the middle of nowhere, in the oil field? No fiber, no grid to sell into. So this is a fully off-grid solution that monetizes the gas, and then our data centers run on Starlink. So, the nice thing about Bitcoin mining is it's low bandwidth required. It's very energy intensive and compute intensive at the ASIC level, but the answers you're sending to the Bitcoin network are very small. So we're able to run on Starlink, unlike other, AI high performance compute applications that need dedicated fiber.
Wow. I mean, it's pretty crazy, like how much things have changed since I did this back in 2017, but not off the grid. We took an old data center, liquor distribution building, and converted it from that into a mining facility. And this was in Virginia, and Dominion Energy is the big powerhouse out there, and so they have a rule set though that you have to keep anything under 4 megawatts, you're subject to their control.
Yeah.
I think it's 4 or 5. Once you're over that threshold, you can go out and obviously source your own power, whoever you want from. But they still obviously handle the delivery and all that. And that was, I think 54 megawatts is what we had access to. But it's pretty crazy the amount of infrastructure you need to do this. So my question, one of my other questions was, how long does this last? Like, how long can you have that facility up and operating?
Yeah, really as long as the gas is there. So every well is different on how long it'll produce gas. A lot of these wells are shale wells, so they come on very fast and then they decline quickly, but then they have a long tail of production. So that's one of the, having that steady rate of gas that we look for. We say, okay, where are you in your production decline, and making sure that you have enough gas to run this for at least 5 years. So our customers have the option to purchase our infrastructure and we operate it, or they can rent it from us. If they're going to purchase it, we want to make sure they have enough gas for 5 years. If they're renting it from us, those are anywhere from 6 to 18-month rental contracts typically. So it's just making sure that the well is going to have enough gas to produce for that whatever period of time the customer needs.
So I guess I would ask also, why, if I'm a energy company in general, why would I not, so I live in Milmoe. One of the big things is we're short on power to do all these data centers. This to me sounds like a beautiful way to help offset all of that.
Yeah, no, we agree. On the purchase product, I think the main hurdle is there's a capital piece required, right?
Right.
ExxonMobil likes spending their money on drilling wells. They don't want to spend it on anything else, even if it makes money. Their core business is drilling wells, and they're hesitant to spend money on anything else, which Bitcoin mining is. So what we've seen is a lot of the smaller producers who are more flexible and creative and can move quickly are the ones buying the equipment. They say, hey, I like this idea. I'm going to go buy 2, 3, 4 units. The Exxons of the world, Occidentals, Diamondbacks, those type of companies, big public companies, are much more likely to rent our equipment. When you rent our equipment, you're frankly kind of just breaking even on the gas. It's more about reducing the flare and producing oil.
Yeah.
If you want to make a lot of money in your gas, you have to buy the equipment, which is expensive.
Interesting. Yeah, Matt, turn it to you. Not trying to hijack.
No, it's all good. You mentioned the big players. I guess who's coming to you for services? Are these people who are looking to get into Bitcoin mining off grid? They don't have a site, or they already are operators up and running and they have a problem?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. And we focus on mainly the people that have a problem. You have an oil and gas problem. we have an oil and gas solution. By the way, it happens to, use Bitcoin mining to solve your oil and gas problem. So on the oil and gas side, it's mainly people just trying to fix their gas problem. We do have investors come to us and say, hey, I love Bitcoin mining. I want low cost power. How can I get involved? And we have a product for them as well. We have a yard in West Texas with pipeline gas connected to Waha, which is very cheap generally. It's negative today. And they can buy a unit there, buy that Waha gas.
And Waha, just for those that don't know the lingo, Waha is what?
Yeah, it's a natural gas hub in the Permian Basin. So natural gas is a very regional market. Henry Hub is the one that everyone knows in Louisiana. That's quoted on Bloomberg. And then every local market has their own hub that gas is settled at.
Kind of like oil and going through Cushing, Oklahoma.
Exactly.
And
WTI is Cushing. Yep.
Right. And then the other one is Europe.
Yep.
And they're on competing exchanges. ICE, one's on ICE, one's on CME.
Exactly.
Interesting. So what is tell us a little more about what is the network hash rate? How is that played into everything going on right now? It's been climbing super high. How does all that play into what you're doing?
Hey, real quick, Sean, sorry to interrupt you. I want to get to the hash rate too, but you said something that piqued my interest in that the price went negative out there at Waha. And I worked at ExxonMobil back during COVID when WTI went negative. So can you explain for people how does that happen? How can the price of a commodity go negative?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it rarely happens with oil. That was kind of a freak COVID thing, but it happens a lot in natural gas because gas is so much more regional. It's expensive to move gas through pipelines. So it goes up. Today it's negative in Waha because there's so much gas in the Permian Basin and so little pipe that people are saying, hey, if you want me to take your gas, you have to pay me. So it's really just people paying to take their gas. So it's really just a supply demand thing that causes the price to actually go negative.
And is there any kind of roadmap to additional pipeline capacity that would result given that signal?
Yeah, there's always a new pipeline just came online, I think 6 months ago out of the Permian Basin, and there's more scheduled. But that one came online, it was full instantly. There's just so much gas out there. Those guys are drilling for oil, and every new oil well they drill, the gas production is also going to increase. So there is, more pipelines planned out of the Permian Basin, but those take time to build, obviously, and they fill up really quickly once they're built.
Where's that pipeline going? Where does that? It comes out. In
the
Permian Basin. For those probably not even familiar with it, pretty sad. But I have to say, in America, you never know. How does that pipeline system work? I think if I'm not mistaken, oil wise, I know there's oil pipelines that go all over the country.
Yeah.
Which is kind of
scary. They are the same for natural gas. So the Permian Basin in West Texas and New Mexico. And if you looked at a map of natural gas pipelines, it's a spider web. They're going in every single direction. There's some going to California, some going into Mexico. Most of the ones they built today are going down to Corpus Christi or east across Texas to Louisiana. So there's a bunch of LNG, liquefied natural gas plants coming online, Corpus Christi, Louisiana, and they're chilling that gas, liquefying it, putting on ships and shipping it over to Europe. So a lot of the new pipes are going from the Permian Basin east across Texas.
Wow. And where do they it's hard to store natural gas.
Yep.
So where do they store it? How does that all work?
Yeah, there's a bunch of storage near Henry Hub in Louisiana in big salt caverns that they can store a ton of gas in, but those fill up also. So there is storage, but you have to move it there first. So if all the pipes are full going from West Texas to Louisiana, that's why things trade negative. And a lot of producers will just say, instead of selling this gas for a negative price, I'll just burn it in the air. And flaring is really not that penalized in Texas. You can do it pretty easily. If you're in New Mexico, they have very strict state regulations on flaring. So they're not really allowed to flare at all in New Mexico, for example.
Huh. So, but why are we not just building? I understand a power plant takes a long time to build, but, I'm also hearing from a lot of people that, not necessarily related to Bitcoin, but, they don't want to use natural gas to power the power plant. And I guess my question is, if you're using natural gas, it's a byproduct. You're able to take that gas that would have gone and been burned. You're using it to generate electricity. I think that's a better than just burning it off.
Oh, it's definitely better, and especially these large combined cycle, new gen gas plants are really clean, actually. And it's baseload power. My opinion is not even it's a fact. Like, we need more baseload power in the U.S. given all this AI demand. The grid's already very strained all over the country. So, they are building natural gas power plants out in the Permian for sure. But the problem is there's more power that you can make than there is demand out there. And moving power over long distances is expensive, power. And you lose a lot in transmission. I think you lose like 30% if you move power over long distances. So there are people working on building AI 100 megawatt plus data centers in West Texas. But like you said, that takes a lot of time to build those large scale projects, get the permits, etc. Those are 4+ year lead times. So it's going to take time. It'll eventually happen. But the nice thing about our solution, we're a lot smaller, obviously, and we can be out there and deployed in 8 weeks, taking this gas. So in the grand scheme of things, we're actually taking a small piece of this gas, and our solution works on the most disadvantaged gas. Like, a lot of the gas is going to get to pipeline. We are there for that last 5% tail, which is a lot of gas that has nowhere to go, and is just being wasted.
Wow. I would think that, like, not only so Bitcoin mine, I think it's a great use case. Honestly, it's like probably one of the best I've heard, as compared to, like, if you think about, like, there was hydro, everybody ran to, there was some towns in New York, they ran to, then the town kicked them out because it was like they overran the town. But I also think it's less destructive. Like, what you're doing is much less destructive because you're not building something into like a river. Because with the river, you have turbines, and when those turbines, that's destroying, all the natural fish and stuff. And so what's next for, like, this part of the segment, or for this segment, if you will, for as it relates to that kind of, like, is this something that you not are going to expand outside the U.S., or are you just going to stick to doing here in the U.S.?
Yeah, that's a great question. The global problem is probably 10 times as big as it is in the U.S. So we eventually do want to go do this outside of the U.S. and South America, Middle East, North Africa has a lot of flare gas. Today we're just focused on the U.S. though. We're still a pretty small company. There's 10 of us full time. We're growing quickly, but we're in Texas. There's a bunch of gas in our backyard, so we're really focused on growing the business within the lower 48 in the U.S. and then expanding internationally, when the time is right. But when we go to do that, Halliburton Labs invested in us earlier this year. Halliburton's a large oilfield service company, so they kind of have a VC arm that invested in us. That's been very helpful. And they're obviously a global company. So when the time comes to expand overseas, we'll lean heavily on their expertise and local knowledge.
Wow.
I was going to ask you about oilfield services in general, and if that's gaining traction amongst the traditional firms. Clearly, Halliburton's a big player. Any other kind of trends that you're seeing there?
Yeah, we haven't seen it. We think it's going to happen eventually, and that's why we need to grow as fast as we can before the big guys get involved. But Halliburton themselves have told us we don't want to get in this business. Like, we are a hydraulic fracturing company. That's what we're good at. We'll make this bet on you as an investment, but they are very conservative, extremely conservative, and don't want to touch Bitcoin mining themselves. So, the fact that we're doing Bitcoin mining can be a headwind sometimes with our clients that don't get Bitcoin. They're like, oh, that's, scary. But it's also a tailwind because of that exact same reason. There's less competitors. Schlumberger, Halliburton don't want to go do this because they think it's risky. So that's kind of the beauty of startups, right? Like we understand that risk. We love Bitcoin. We think it's going to be around. So we're able to offer this product that solves the solution in the oil field.
Yeah. But if you're an energy company, like, why would you? I mean, I don't know. To me, as an energy company, you're going to have to obviously manage the infrastructure cost here of, like how much your equipment charge costs. But if I can help offset any carbon footprint and keep the regulators happy while generating Bitcoin for my balance sheet, I mean, I don't know. It sounds like a good problem to have if I'm a CEO.
Yeah, no, we totally agree. And I think all of the tailwinds in Bitcoin are helping that. 5 years ago, people fully thought Bitcoin was a scam, in the broader economy. So the Strategic Reserve, BlackRock, ETF, Fidelity, the fact that Larry Fink's on CNBC every other day talking about Bitcoin is really helpful in getting people more comfortable with it. And it's funny, like some of our clients, when they first sign up with us, they're like, I just want cash. I just want to liquidate my Bitcoin daily. Give me the cash. And we're like, that's fine. You can do whatever you want. But by the time they spend the money and actually understand Bitcoin a bit more, they're like, oh, can you help me custody some of this on our balance sheet? So we are kind of orange pilling the oil field, as we call it, via backdoor route. It starts with, hey, this is making more money in your gas that you're flaring. You can get cash. And then, a year in, they start to understand Bitcoin a bit more. And we have some clients holding the Bitcoin on their balance sheet, which is great.
Excellent strategy. And that kind of segues into, I guess, your thoughts on Bitcoin as a whole and the network at the moment. And, we had a 20% drawdown from all-time high recently. And at the same time, hash rate was screaming up beyond the Zeta hash. And I think it's pulled back a little bit this week. But I guess, what's your general thoughts on Bitcoin, the network, and where we sit now?
Yeah. I mean, as far as price, I have no idea where it's going to go short term. I'm very bullish long term. They're going to keep printing more dollars. They have to. You can't print more Bitcoin. So in 5 years, I'm certain Bitcoin will be higher in dollar terms. As far as the hash rate, it's been pretty surprising, frankly, to see network hash rate grow as fast as it has over the past couple of years. Hash price, which is Bitcoin mining profitability, is kind of near all-time lows, and people are still plugging in, newer machines. So I think a lot of it is chip upgrades. These new ASICs are really efficient, and as people cycle, the public guys are refreshing their miners every 2 to 3 years. So a lot of that hash rate increase is existing infrastructure that's being upgraded to newer chips that are like 17 joules a terahash. So if I put my conspiracy hat on, I think there also might be some nation states mining Bitcoin. Because if you're a nation state, Russia, Iran, etc., they don't care what the cost to mine Bitcoin is. They just want Bitcoin. So I think that could be some of it too. I don't have any, defined data. It's hard to really know that one, but I think that combo is what's driving hash rate to all-time highs.
Wow. Well, I mean, we're coming up on time here. What I did want to, this has been super, super informational. So where do you plan to take 360 Energy over the next, I call it 6, 12, 24 months? You kind of touched on it a little, but what do you got planned for that time period?
Yeah, I think we're really focused on working with bigger and bigger producers, getting our in the door with the large publicly traded companies. And we're having a lot of good conversations as we speak with those caliber of businesses. And we think that, once you get a pilot program with a large public company, they see it work.
Yep.
We can grow exponentially with those type of businesses because they have more gas than we could ever take, frankly. So that's the main focus now, is working with those larger businesses that have a ton of gas and are not making money on it. And again, like, the focus is the US right now, but I'd say probably in the next 24 months, we'd start thinking about expanding internationally.
One thing I did want to ask really quick, and then we can wrap it up, is how does the heat in the summer play into what you're doing? I mean, it's not exactly that you're doing this in the coolest state.
Yeah.
So how do you factor that in what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And heat is the enemy of basics.
I know.
Our, the containers we use are purpose built for the West Texas heat. We do air cooled typically. We do some immersion as well. But the reality is, if it's 110 in West Texas and the generator's getting hot, the ASICs are getting hot, we have software that can remotely bring down the load, by 10%. So we'll underclock the mine by 10% if things are getting too hot.
Yeah.
To kind of stay up throughout that hot part of the day. And then once night hits, you can bring hash rate back up. So it's something that we are really focused on, and kind of why we have an edge. We have that software to monitor all that real time.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's really cool. No, I mean, when we did it, it was all air. I mean, you have the cold coming in from the side,
yep.
And then the hot just goes right out the top. And
yep.
I mean, at ours, we had like over 100 fans, like on the roof, and then the whole took the walls, and it was just all louvers on the side.
Yeah, exactly. If you see our containers are modified shipping containers that have the whole side is just big fans that are just moving a bunch of ambient air through the container. Yeah.
So Sean, where can we find you? Where can people reach out to you?
Yeah, our website is 360energyco.com. We're on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn to me, send me a DM, and I'll get back to you quickly.
Awesome. Well, Sean, thanks for coming. Matt, thanks for making the time. And till next week. This is 21 Rates, Monday Morning Mining. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.